Martina.
This is terrifying.
She's telling me how nervous she is. And why are you so nervous when you speak in front of groups all the time?
Well, I speak mostly in front of men, so so it's great that men are a minority, or if it's only women, then it's some gay thing. So I'm really suffering. I'm really suffering speaking in front of 400 women here. No, it's just different. I mean, so many accomplished women here. Usually, I feel like I can really teach people something, but here, I'm learning more than.
Believe me.
I'm learning. I want to listen to everybody.
Believe me. Well, Martina is here the whole time, which is really fantastic, and it's her first time here. And I mean, I was such a huge tennis fan in the 80s when Martina really, truly dominated the sport. And those of you who have been at the summit for many years know that Billie Jean King comes just about every year. And I interviewed Billie at Most Powerful Women London in June. And she can't be here with us today. She has a board meeting today. She was signed up. She had to cancel. She has a whole lot of things going on in the next 2 days. And Billie actually has said that Martina Navratilova is the greatest singles. If you look at singles, doubles, and mixed doubles, greatest players of all time, Martina is it.
I just played a lot.
So let me just throw out some stats here. 18 Grand Slam singles championships, 31 major women's doubles titles, 10 major mixed doubles titles. She won the Wimbledon singles championship 9 times. And when you introduced yourself today during the big get to know you, you said, I used to play tennis, now I just talk about it.
It's much easier.
So how often do you play now?
Well, I work for Tennis Channel, so I work over the Grand Slams, and I maybe average once a week, if that. It used to be I never played for fun. It was I always played because I was getting ready for an event. So now I play for fun, and it's a workout. These days, what used to be a warm-up is now a workout. So we know how that feels, right? And I'm a spokesperson for ARP.
I know you are, and you speak about health and fitness all over the world, I guess. And what are the messages that you give? And I'm curious, what do you do personally to keep fit?
As little as possible, no. No, I have a family. My girlfriend, I have 2 girls, so life is busy. But I sneak away here and there. I ride a bicycle. I do yoga. I have this fabulous teacher. This guy is gorgeous, and so I do yoga and play tennis here and there, and whatever. I do a 7-minute workout. It's great. This New York Times 7-minute workout.
What is that?
Just a series of exercises. I do one with like 40 seconds on, and you rest for 20 seconds, and you keep going. So
And where can we find this?
New York Times.
New York Times.
7-minute workout.
Google that.
It works.
Okay, interesting.
If you don't have time, you can always squeeze that in. Anywhere. No
so
excuse.
Martina, the theme of the summit this year is breakthroughs in leadership. I feel like you've had so many breakthroughs in your career, but what stands out?
Well, I had some big turning points. Of course, in 1975, when I defected, I grew up in Czechoslovakia, then Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic, and the Federation had the power to either give you the visa or not. First, you had to get a permit to go to the embassy to get visa to go to Italy or England or US. And if they didn't give you this permit, you couldn't go. And in the summer of '75, they decided that they wouldn't let me play the US Open. Until the very last minute, they allowed me to come and play. And at that point, my father said, you probably should stay. But if you do go, don't tell your mother if you don't come back. And that's pretty much when I left in August in '75. I knew I wasn't coming back. And I didn't know when I was going to see my family again, if I was going to see them again. It turned out it was 4 years before I saw my mother. Wow. And 5 years before I saw my dad and my sister. So that was a pretty devastating time, but I felt I had no choice. So when people ask me, do you have any regrets? I have a regret that I had to do that. I regret that communist system killed so many people and so many hopes. And if I wanted to keep my dream alive, I had to get out of that, because otherwise my life wouldn't be my own.
And that was the year you turned pro, 1975.
Well, yes.
And you were actually stripped of your Czech citizenship then. And was that Was that surprising to you when that happened, and was that traumatic or not?
Well, I knew once I left that I couldn't go back. And in fact, they said, well, your visa's through the Federation, they told me. After I defected in September in New York, they said, well, if you come back before your visa runs out, which is October, then you'll be okay, and all will be forgiven. But if you don't come back, if you come back after that, then you'll go to prison for 2 years. So, well, that was my choice.
And how did your mother react to this?
Well, back then you had to order the phone call to Czechoslovakia. You called the operator, and maybe 2 hours later you would get the call. So we only spoke maybe once a month, and of course it was devastating. I'd rather not talk about it. But it was, the time that I didn't have with my family. That was perhaps the hardest thing that I ever had to go through. And here I was all by myself.
Is there a lesson that comes out of this? I mean, what's the big takeaway from this?
Well, for me, it was that I had to take a huge step to follow my dream, to be my own boss and live my life the way I wanted to live it, without anybody telling me what to do, how to feel, when to do it, how to do it, etc. So even if you take it further back, when I was 14, I won the Czech championships, and then the Federation, I became #1 for the first time, and the Federation said, okay, we'll take over now, to my father. And she goes to the net too much, she needs to stay on the baseline. And my father said, no, I don't think so. And I played my way, and I think that's what I took away from Christine Lagarde yesterday. When she didn't feel that job was right for her, she stuck to her guns and went her way.
Wow.
And I did that then as well. I wanted to come to the net. That's where the action was. I didn't want to stay on the baseline and wait for it to happen.
That's fantastic.
And so, if I had listened to them back then, I probably wouldn't be here. Anyway.
So in 1981, you became a U.S. citizen. Mm-hmm. And actually, in 2008, your Czech citizenship was restored.
Well, I could have actually gotten it much, much sooner. Like 2000, I think, it was allowed that I could get the Czech citizenship, but I just didn't get around to it. It was a lot of paperwork. I finally got it organized, and then they lost the papers, typical. So, it took me years before I finally got it done. And then when I finally did get it, it was 2007 or 2008, and people try to politicize that too. It says, oh, Martina waited until Obama was president because she was embarrassed because Bush, and I'm like, that had nothing to do with anything. I just got my stuff organized, and I'm a dual citizen now. But of course, at heart, Czech, but my life and I love living in this country. I love this country. So you can't take me out of the Czech Republic completely, but I'm a Yankee.
So our next session, I'll give a little hint to the next session, is Arianna Huffington interviewing Robbie Kaplan, this amazing Paul Weiss attorney who argued against the Defense of Marriage Act in the Supreme Court. And you actually, such big news when Jason Collins came out this year, and you actually were the first big name professional athlete to come out in over 3 decades ago, 1981, which was the year you turned pro. How did you come to that decision?
I turned pro in 75. I
75. You became a citizen in 81, yeah.
Well, I actually had to wait till I got my citizenship before I came out, because back then it was a disqualifier to be gay. So I've had reporters after me for years. Oh, what about you? And I said, well, I can't talk about it until I get my citizenship. So I got my citizenship. 2 days later, I flew to Monte Carlo. I was at the airport. They said, do you have a passport? I'm like, do I have a passport? I had my American passport. And the next day, a reporter from the Daily News calls me, so Martina, you're ready to talk about, I'm like, well, I really can't, because Billie Jean, there was a scandal with her back then. And the WTA said, no, we can't really have any more scandals, so we may lose our sponsorship. So I'm like, okay, so I'll be quiet again. So I was always covering somebody else's behind by not coming out. Although, again, I covered mine by not coming out because I wouldn't be able to become an American. So all these things happen. But I said to him, no, I can't talk about it because of the sponsorship, this and that. And he said, well, I said, you're not going to talk about it, are you? He said, no, not if you don't want me to. And the next day it's in the paper. Martina cannot talk about her sexuality. So I was kind of outed, but I've been wanting to come out for such a long time, but I couldn't. Yeah, so it was kind of messy.
So it turned out to be a good thing, but a complicated thing.
Yes.
And what was the price to pay back then in 1981?
It's strange because when I played the US Open about a month later, I lost to Tracy Austin and 17th in the third in the finals. And when I got my trophy, people kept clapping and they kept clapping and they kept clapping. And I finally started crying because I felt accepted. You know, for the first time, I really felt at home, and I had my passport, not my re-entry permit. I was not stateless. I was an American, and these people loved me. I thought, you know, this is amazing. But then later, as the kind of the love affair wore off, when I would get introduced to come to play a match, everybody was clapping for my opponent. Certainly when I played Chris, yeah, Chris America, a wonderful person, great friend. Everybody claps for Chris Evert, and I come out and, you know, not everybody clapped. Some even whistled and booed and, you know, jeered. I know I had some really bad haircuts, but I don't think they were that bad. I mean, that mullet really has to go. That's perhaps the worst thing about being well known. Those bad haircuts never go away. But it was tough, you know.
You look good right now.
I wanted to be loved so much, and I think I don't know how much the sexuality had to do with it. Being a strong woman, playing a very aggressive game. Being outspoken, winning a lot. I think it's a combination of all, but I know that being gay didn't help. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who has a question for Martina? Yes, right here. Identify yourself, please.
Nancy Snyderman with NBC
hi.
News. Hi, nice to see you again. So when you say to this group that you can't imagine having taught us anything, I want to tell you a story about you. When you came here from Czechoslovakia, with American ice cream, and you gained weight. And I remember reading that you were down in the dumps and you created a list, the things I like about myself and the things I don't like about myself. And the only thing on the list that you didn't like about yourself was that you were heavy. So you went back to work and you worked out and you lost weight. I had a traumatic event in college. I put on 50 pounds and I read about you and your lists. And I've made a list every day for the rest of my life.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, time to make another list. I put on 20 pounds in 2 weeks when I first came to the States in '73. I was playing 2, 3, 4 hours of tennis a day, but my metabolism changed. I was 16, and I just couldn't stop eating. Not junk, just, you know, I'd have 2 steaks for dinner, not 1.
Oh my gosh.
And discovered pancakes and cereal. And then I have eggs all for breakfast. So I'm 20 pounds in 2 weeks. By the second trimester, I had to buy myself a new pair of shorts because I couldn't fit into the old one. But that's how it goes. But anyway, I found
Are you a vegetarian now?
No, I was for about 7 years. I'm just a healthy eater.
Yeah.
Yeah. I brought my own coconut water from Florida.
Did you really?
I
a special kind of coconut water?
Well, it's fresh. It's
really?
Fresh. Yeah. It'll go bad in about 4 or 5 days. So I freeze it, and it was frozen in my suitcase and defrosted perfectly.
Fantastic.
When I got here.
Now, Martina, when you came to the United States and started playing here, you didn't have a coach for many years. Is that right?
And that was my other big breakthrough in '81. My father was my coach, and then when I left in '75, he was still trying to coach me over the phone, but you know, he never seen Chris Evert play in person. And I had a lousy backhand, he had a lousy backhand, my first coach had a lousy backhand, so we assumed everybody had a lousy backhand. So my father would say, oh, hit to Ivan Gulagon's backhand, hit to Chris's backhand. Well, both their backhands are better than their forehand. Took me a while to figure it out. So I didn't have a coach for 6 years, and then during the US Open, that same US Open, when I lost to Tracy, that's when Renee Richards started helping me and became my coach. Completely just went into it by accident, but worked together for 3 years, and she taught me a topspin backhand immediately, and that was my big breakthrough, getting help, because no matter how good you are, you cannot coach yourself. You don't see it, you know.
I don't understand how you could even compete at that level without having a coach.
Well, most people had a coach at home, but nobody really traveled with their own coach. I think Bjorn Borg was the other one that had a full-time coach. Jimmy Connors, his mother, so you know, he had a built-in coach. But it was just a different time. We didn't have those entourages back then, and it was just you on your own. First French Open, when I got to the finals, my third French Open, but when I got to the finals, I played with Chris Evert. I played doubles with her, and we practiced together every day. And then we got to the finals against each other, and we're like, okay, we might as well hit. So we practiced before the final, like, with each other. You know, those just a different time. Now the girls don't even talk to each other. So.
Wow. is the game today a completely different level or kind of game, or would you like to be playing today?
I love it, yeah. When people say, oh, they hit the ball so hard, I'm like, oh, it's going to come back harder. But they're just big. They hit the ball very hard. You know, I used to be the tallest one, other than Pam Shriver, I was the tallest one in the top 10. Now, you know, I would be like, I'm only looking up at everybody. They're like 6'2", 6'3".
How
Serena's
tall are you?
shoulders are this big. I'm 5'8". 150 something pounds now. Was 145 pounds. True weight. Now you look at the player guide, and you know they're all lying about their weight. It's like, really? I weigh 150 pounds. Look at me. I'm size 8. And they're like 135 pounds, 6 foot.
Okay, on that note, Martina, this was fantastic, and I hope this isn't the last time you come to the Most Powerful Women's Summit. You're going to be a loyalist now.
I'm a Fortune MPW virgin, but I will come back for more, for sure.
Good.
Thank you so
well,
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.